so graciously enduring the assault that you have. I'd like to touch on the 287G program. Thank you for partnering with our local and state law enforcement to work together to secure our borders. This is an excellent program. You have voiced support for it. Can you speak, Madam Secretary Noem, can you speak to the importance of the DHS partnering with local and state law enforcement, including programs like 287G?
Well, thank you, Congressman. Yes, 287G has been a wonderful program for many years, but not utilized during the previous administration. It's a partnership between federal law enforcement officers and also our state and local law enforcement to give them the same authorities to operate in a task force model, to go out and to really make sure that we're going after individuals that have broken our laws, that have perpetuated violence in our communities, bring them into incarceration and get them out of our country if they don't belong here. And it has been a fantastic partnership, one that President Trump has encouraged us to pursue and to continue to build out across the country.
Yes, ma'am. That program and others like it are going to be heavily supported by Republicans on this committee. Finally, ma'am, in my remaining 25 seconds, we speak to the efforts to locate the children. Thousands and thousands and thousands of children waved into our country during the last 4 years, and they're lost to the interior. Many are being trafficked and abused. Can you speak to the efforts to find these kids?
Yeah, up to 300,000 children were lost or missing under the Biden administration. We have located and returned over 5,000 of them to their homes and to their families, but there's many, many more to be found and to be returned and brought to safety. So we're continuing to work on that every day, and our HSI officers spend a lot of time and are the experts in the field at training local law enforcement to identify and find them as well.
Thank you, ma'am. You expect full support there, Mr. Chairman.
And I now recognize...
Mr. Chairman, before I'd ask unanimous consent to introduce the article from PBS NewsHour entitled "Children Who Are U.S. Citizens."
I think that instills a lot of fear. It doesn't instill security in the process. And in states like Texas, that is open carry, when any jackadoo can be walking around with a gun, I think some tragic circumstances are at bay. I'd like to switch gears to due process. I have a lot of concerns about the lack of due process that your agency has been affording people in this country. In Texas, for example, you had rounded up 171 individuals, were preparing to deport them, and it wasn't until the Supreme Court issued an opinion that that was unconstitutional and that their due process rights were being violated did your agency actually stop and adhere to the Supreme Court's opinion. My question to you is, has those efforts ceased in your agency? Are you going to cease trying to deport people without access to due process in the courts of law in compliance with the United States Supreme Court?
Well, Congresswoman, we are following due process and using it as to how Congress has laid out to us in statute, and we are complying with all federal judges' orders as well.
You weren't complying at that time. It took the United States Supreme Court to order you to comply, so you hadn't proactively complied on your own. You were intending to wrongfully deport people without access to a court hearing, without access to the rule of law, and that is why it was necessary for the United States Supreme Court,
due process does not guarantee a hearing,
who issued an opinion ordering you and your agency to comply with the due process rights of the people in this country. That's what separates, that's what makes our country great, is we do have access to due process. And so my comment to you is I'm hoping as you move forward, because initially as you were proceeding through these deportation processes, you were not affording people due process, and the Supreme Court has now ordered you to do so. So I am assuming by your testimony that you do intend to comply with the Supreme Court's order moving forward, and we're not going to have any more instances of wrongful deportation without proper access to due process. Is that correct?
We are following federal judges' orders, and
Good.
We are complying with due process
Well, we look forward
procedures
to
as
that.
they are laid out, as Congress has given us those tools to do that.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I have one other question about FEMA. I'm very concerned about the destruction of FEMA. You know, Texas is a state that has a lot of hurricanes, tornadoes, and natural disasters. We rely upon FEMA extensively, and I'm very worried about that. And when you are governor, though, you actually utilized FEMA for your own state. So you did recognize at the time when you were serving as a governor that FEMA played an important role in natural disasters within South Dakota. Is that correct?
Yes, we had 12 FEMA-related disasters during the 6 years I served as governor of the state of South Dakota.
But I just find it, I'm
agencies-
running out of time, but I just find it ironic.
I now recognize Mr. Pfluger, the gentleman from Texas, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary.
Gentleman yields. I now recognize Mr. Goldman for 5 minutes questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to go back to Mr. Kilmar Abrego Garcia's case, Madam Secretary. But my first question for you is a pretty simple one. It's basic civics. Which branch of government does the Constitution give the authority to interpret what the law is? The judiciary or the executive branch?
Sir, going forward, the interpretation of the law, you make the laws in this body. The judicial branch makes sure that they have integrity and they're applied properly to individuals.
So that, okay, so I'm just going to take that as the judiciary branch. Now, let's focus for a second on what the judiciary branch has said about this case. We know the Supreme Court has said 9-0 that notwithstanding your statements under oath here today, that Mr. Kilmar Abrego Garcia was afforded due process, he was in fact not afforded due process, because then if he were, you would have seen the withholding order that did not permit him to be deported to El Salvador. Now you allege, and I guess the Attorney General alleges, that he's a member of MS-13. That
It's
may
not
very
just-
well be,
it's not
that
just
very well
us.
may be the case. And if he is, now that that is a foreign terrorist organization, certainly the immigration laws would allow him, and in fact require him, to be deported. I certainly would support that. But the problem that we have here is what you allege, what Ms. Green alleges, what the Attorney General alleges, is not the judiciary. You don't get to decide whether or not he is an MS-13 member. And you don't have to take my word for it, because Judge Wilkinson, a Fourth Circuit judge, very conservative, addressed this argument. He said, the government asserts that Abrego Garcia is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. Perhaps, but perhaps not. Regardless, he is still entitled to due process. If the government is confident in its position, it should be assured that position will prevail in proceedings to terminate the withholding of removal order. Will you commit right now to give Mr. Abrego Garcia that process where you can prove your allegation that he is a member of MS-13?
Congressman, that judge that you just quoted did not say he was not a member of MS-13. Who did say that he was a member of MS-13 was law enforcement officers that encountered this individual.
Yeah, he knows
We
that.
had
This is a Fourth Circuit judge. He knows all of what the evidence is, and he's saying if that evidence. So you're not going to commit to follow this order. You won't commit to follow this court order.
By the way, he identified
Madam Secretary,
himself.
I reclaim my time. Stop filibustering. Stop filibustering.
By gang members of MS-13.
Will you give Mr. Abrego Garcia the due process that the Supreme Court and Judge Wilkinson has required you to give him?
Abrego Garcia is an El Salvador resident who is in his home country. If he were to come back to this country, he would be immediately removed again.
How do you know?
He has received and been treated appropriately,
So he,
sir, and he is not.
how can
in
you
this
say he's
country
been
anymore.
treated
For
appropriately
advocacy,
if the Supreme Court has ruled 9-0 that he hasn't been treated appropriately? Why is your opinion better
we had
and
two
have more authority than the Supreme Court?
investigators, 2 judges, an immigration court that all said he was MS-13 and was removed from this country.
But you understand, that is you saying that. That is you saying that.
That is them saying that. This
No,
is
no, no, no.
investigators and law
That is
enforcement
you
officers
making
and
that
the case they built
determination.
against him. If you don't
The
trust our law
court
enforcement
has
officers
considered all that.
and
The judge has
investigators,
considered all that,
then
Madam
who do you
Secretary.
trust if you
And if
don't
you would
trust
be
judges?
quiet, because I'm reclaiming my time, you are not following this court order. But let's focus on the court order, because this opinion also says that to facilitate, which the Supreme Court is requiring, is an active verb. It requires that steps be taken. What steps have you taken to return Mr. Abrego Garcia to allow him to get due process?
Abrego Garcia is in his home country.
What
If he were to come
steps
back,
have
your
you
advocacy-
taken?
If your continued advocacy for him were to...
I'm
bring
not
him back to
advocating
this-
for him.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
advocating for a
Absolutely.
court order, Madam
Gone to the
Secretary.
mat for this
The
man
court
who has
order
terrorized
says
people
that
in
you
traffic
must take
and human
steps
beings.
to follow the court order. You are here under oath. What steps have you taken to return Mr. Abrego Garcia pursuant to this court order?
It's got to be extremely discouraging to be one of your constituents. To see you fight for a terrorist like this and not fight for them is extremely alarming to me.
I'm
and
fighting for
sure it
due
is my
process.
constituents as
And
well.
that's under the Constitution.
Gentleman's
and you
time
should
has
fight too for due
expired.
process.
The gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize Ms.
I ask unanimous consent to enter for the record. One of our colleagues had asked if there was evidence if the so-called Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was MS-13. According to the Attorney General of the United States, she posted that the evidence shows Kilmar Abrego Garcia has repeatedly been identified as a member of MS-13 by a Maryland County Police Gang unit, which I introduced for the record, a reliable confidential informant, ICE officers, an immigration judge agreed, and an appellate board agreed.
Without
So you have,
objection.
is that a court
Without
order?
objection.
Well, I object. Is
No,
that-
she can put anything she wants in the record. She's not complying to your request, Mr. Goldman.
She asked for unanimous consent.
Okay, so you're objecting to her putting that into the record?
I am objecting subject to a clarification. Is that a court order that establishes that he's a member of MS-13?
An immigration judge agreed that
bail-
he was MS-13.
for
An
bail
appellate-
purposes.
An
Hold on, yeah,
appellate
we're
board
not gonna-
agreed.
Don't misrepresent.
Hold on,
A
we're not.
judge.
Everybody pause. We're gonna let one person talk at a time. You ask a question, answer the question, please.
According to the Attorney General of the United States, she informed the country that an immigration judge agreed that your Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, is MS-13. An appellate board agreed. ICE officers agreed.
misstating what the
A
Interrupt.
reliable
Mr. Goldman,
informant.
the clock is not yours right now. She has the floor. Please continue answering the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A Maryland County
She's not answering the question, sir.
No, she's going to answer the question, and then you can object
Can
to
you
her answer.
make sure that she answers the question?
Finish answer. You just said, please finish your answer.
A Maryland County Police Gang unit agreed that he's MS-13. A reliable confidential informant agreed that he's MS-13. ICE officers agreed that he's MS-13. An immigration judge agreed that he's MS-13. An appellate board agreed that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, your Maryland man, is MS-13.
Okay.
I
You have the
object.
floor. What do you want to say?
I object because she is misstating the record and the facts. That is not accurate, and therefore I object to that being introduced. There is no.
Mr.
Well, sir, can
Chairman?
I explain? You let her go on.
Go ahead.
There is no final court order establishing that he's a member. Maybe he is. So you should put all that evidence before a judge, and if he is MS-13, he should be deported. That's what we're talking about, but you're misstating what all of that evidence is.
No, I think I'm going to make a point here. You basically just read what the Attorney General said, correct?
Yes, sir.
You didn't assert that this was a court order, did you? Did you assert that this was a court order?
I read the Attorney General of the United States.
And you have a right on our committee to submit for unanimous consent or a vote, if we want to put it to a vote. This for the record, correct? Is that it?
Yes.
That is
Could I-
correct. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
she
could
has a right.
Could I review what she is submitting?
No, she can submit something to this committee.
But it matters that she just said she represented exactly what the Attorney General said. She has a document there. I would like to
Let's make a
see
copy.
that document.
Let's make a copy
to
for
see if her
everybody, and we'll
representation-
vote on. I'm going to hold on just a second. We're going to hold. You're calling for the question? We're calling for the question. The clerk, we're going to need to set. Hold on just a second. Brief recess. Has expired. I now recognize Mr. Swalwell for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. You have an important job. I think you have one of the most important jobs in the cabinet. Thank you for doing it. I want you to have credibility and be taken seriously as you do the job. And so I want to put to rest this question about Mr. Garcia and this photo that the president posted on April 21. Madam Secretary, you agree that the letters MS and the number 13 in Times Roman numeral font, that they are doctored on this photo, right?
Congressman Abrego Garcia.
No, I'm
a
just
known
asking about
member
this
of
this
MS-13.
photo.
It wasn't based off of tattoos. It was
Okay.
based off an entire case.
And I'll accept
Entire
that
case against him.
for the purpose of this question. You agree, though, that this is doctored, is that right?
The same protocols that are
Madam
applied
Secretary,
to every
I want you to have
individual with law
credibility,
enforcement.
and I want you to be taken seriously. Is this doctored or is it not
Sir, I
doctored?
am taken quite seriously
Is it
because
doctored
I
or
approach my
not
job
doctored?
with the importance that the president has given me to do
I understand.
my job.
Is it doctored or
One
not
thing
doctored?
that's important to remember is that every single time a case is built.
Madam
against
Secretary, I have a
individuals, it's the
7-year-old, a
same
6-year-old, and a
protocols.
3-year-old. I have a bullshit detector. I'm just asking you, is this doctored or not doctored?
Sir, the protocols in the case built against
Can you
Abrego
answer the
Garcia
question?
were exactly the same.
Madam
I
Secretary,
don't have
you're-
any knowledge as to that photo you're pointing to.
Okay, can you
I
take her,
don't, sir.
can you show her the photo? Walk her the photo down there. No, that one. Please take a look at this photo. It was tweeted by the president on April 21. It's been hanging out there for about a month.
So what is your point?
My question is, the numbers and the letter, MS-13, could you look at the photo, please? It's right in front of
Are
you.
you saying Abrego Garcia is not a wife
No,
beater?
no, ma'am,
That he's not a criminal?
ma'am,
He's not a human
you,
trafficker? And he's
ma'am,
not a member of MS-13?
you vouched for Mr. Garcia when
You're
your team
vouching for
said,
a man
ma'am, you
that is
vouched
a
for him when
known
you said he
violent
was mistakenly deported.
Sir,
I didn't vouch for him.
I did not say
In
that.
that
He should
photo,
have been deported, absolutely.
it's so
There was
telling
never
that
a
you
mistake
won't
to
look at the
deport him,
photo.
And we will not be bringing
Was
him
it
back to this
doctored or
country.
not?
If, in staying here, if
Can
he
you
comes
look to
back
your
the
right
country, he
at
would
the
be
photo in
leaving
front of
right
you?
away.
Madam Secretary, can you look to the right at the photo in front of you?
I have seen this
Okay.
photo as you held it behind your head.
Thank you. And the letters MS and the numbers 13, are those
Is this
doctored
your
or
entire
not?
testimony today is on a doctored photo? You don't want to talk about the facts?
Okay,
The
so you,
importance of our national security?
you acknowledge it was
Do
doctored.
to make sure that the United States is protected
Madam Secretary,
from
this is not a
violent
hard question.
criminals?
Are those doctored or not?
Sir,
Is that actually on his hand or not?
This is unbelievable to me that you're focusing.
It's unbelievable to me
photo
that you can't
think-
look at the photo and tell the
I
American
looked at
people.
the photo, but I don't have any knowledge as to this photo.
Okay, so it's been hanging out there for 4 weeks. You are one of the chief law enforcement officials in the country. What have you done to investigate whether the president misrepresented the reason that that person has been detained?
Sir,
Have
we
you
spend our
done
time-
anything to try and figure out whether that was doctored or not?
The mission of the Department of Homeland Security is to secure our nation and to make sure that we're out there going after those that are the worst of the worst, the criminals, the bad actors. Abrego
Yes.
Garcia.
So the answer is
a
you've done
known
nothing to
terrorist,
correct the
member
president.
of MS-13, a wife
Okay.
beater and a human
Okay.
trafficker that should never have been in this country to begin with.
So, Madam Secretary, thank you, Mr. Burnett. 2 weeks ago, your agency deported a 4-year-old American citizen in a stage 4 cancer battle. What are you doing to get him back to the country so he can get his treatment?
Congressman, this mother wished to keep her family together and to take her child with her. So as every single person is given the opportunity to, medical care is given throughout the process.
So it sounds like
And for this
nothing.
child, medical care was confirmed in their home country so that it would continue, and those treatments and whatever needs were needed to be had into the future were confirmed to be provided
Okay.
there before.
That child's home country is the United States. Do you believe you have a right to deport a U.S. citizen?
That mother chose to keep her family together, and that is what President Trump is
That's-
focused on.
that's not the facts of the case.
That, yes, it is the facts.
Madam
This
Secretary,
mother
moving on, do you,
confirmed that she wanted to
do
keep
you
her
have a
child
right,
with her, and our families and parents are given that ability to keep their children with them when they return to their home countries.
Madam Secretary, do you have a right to deport a U.S. citizen,
No, we do not deport U.S. citizens and have not deported U.S. citizens.
except the 4-year-old that we just
No,
reference.
that mother chose to keep her child with her, and that is her prerogative, and the law was followed in allowing her the opportunity to do that.
So, Madam Secretary, I'm a former prosecutor. I have put people away for life sentences who are gang members. I don't need to wear costumes to show how tough I am. What makes me different from you is when I put those individuals away, I did it with the weight of the law behind me. And I yield back.
Mr. Chairman?
Gentleman yields.
I ask unanimous consent to enter an article from Fox 45 that states documents reveal a second protective order filed by the wife against Kilmar Abrego Garcia whom also had 2 deportation orders.
Without objection, so ordered. I now recognize Mr. Higgins for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My. Our Democrat colleagues really love illegals in our country. It's stunning for regular Americans like me to listen to this passionate and contentious defense for the previous administration's policies and the resultant millions upon millions upon millions of illegals that entered our country over the last 4 years. I tell you where we're, I'm not going to use my colleagues' the same language because I don't think that kind of language should be used in committee. But I tell you where we heard loads of not necessarily genuine statements. It was from Secretary Mayorkas for 4 years. We had to listen to his testimony again and again, how he needed more resources, he needed more laws, and Congress had to pass more laws. And yet, we said for years, what you need is to enforce the laws that we currently have on the books. You need policies that would actually control the border. And we have Madam Secretary before us representing an administration that has done just that. If the same 1,954 miles of border that you had a year ago is now under control. If the same men and women that you had a year ago, the border is now under control. If the same equipment, the same all-weather roads, everything is the same. The only thing that has changed is the policies coming out of the White House and a Secretary of Homeland Security that will actually execute the laws of our land and protect the citizenry of our country. That's Madam Secretary Noem, who sits before us, and she should be spoken to with some modicum of respect from my Democrat colleagues. It's amazing. Our border is secured versus wide open and wild, and Democrats complain and they're angry and they protest. Illegals are being deported rather than waved in and imported, and Democrats are angry and protesting. It's stunning to Americans to witness this. Madam Secretary, thank you, good lady, for the job that you are doing, securing our borders and protecting the citizenry that we are elected to represent in this body. I work for the American citizenry, and every one of us has sworn that oath. The difference between the parties has never been more stark. We represent law and order and American citizens and American enforcement of our laws. My goodness gracious. Thank you, Madam, for so graciously enduring the assault that you have. I'd like to touch on the 287G program. Thank you for partnering with our local and state law enforcement to work together to secure our borders. This is an excellent program. You have voiced support for it. Can you speak, Madam Secretary Noem, can you speak to the importance of the DHS partnering with local and state law enforcement, including programs like 287G?
Well, thank you, Congressman. Yes, 287G has been a wonderful program for many years, but not utilized during the previous administration. It's a partnership between federal law enforcement officers and also our state and local law enforcement to give them the same authorities to operate in a task force model, to go out and to really make sure that we're going after individuals that have broken our laws, that have perpetuated violence in our communities, bring them into incarceration and get them out of our country if they don't belong here. And it has been a fantastic partnership, one that President Trump has encouraged us to pursue and to continue to build out across the country.
Yes,
Today
ma'am.
we have-
That program and others like it are going to be heavily supported by Republicans on this committee. Finally, ma'am, in my remaining 25 seconds, we speak to the efforts to locate the children. Thousands and thousands and thousands of children waved into
Well, I also have a bullshit detector, and let me tell you, she's full of crap. Every word she spews is the same sentence. She's a bunch of bullshit, and she shouldn't have got that job. She does not have the understanding of human compassion and should be immediately fired.